sightings and I just rolled out the mat. I wonder what today's class will hold in terms of wildlife. Anyways, I've been asked to do sort of a desert island class. In other words, what are the essentials that you could do within 15 to 20 minutes that somebody could do every day or beginners could do? So if you're not a beginner, then you would understand how to make these poses a little bit more challenging for you. Or you might also just need something that's very gentle or just get you moving but isn't necessarily challenging. It may be more challenging than you think. Okay, so this is my desert island class. I suggest you have a timer. It would be nice if you could have a couple of blocks or, books, or I like to use soup cans before I bought blocks. Obviously the same size. Usually the big tomato sauce cans work very nicely. The reason I want you to have a timer is because I want you to be able to take some of these things and go longer. If you want to hold things longer, I recommend you take the breathing longer that we do in the beginning. And you can also create a long Shavasana at the end. I generally don't do Shavasana in my videos. Maybe I should, but I'm just not doing it right now. So we're going to get started. And it's very important to start with the breath. So let's take a block and sit on it, because chances are most of you sit and have your knees higher than your hips. Okay? If you don't, great. But even if you do, maybe it wouldn't be so bad. You want to take your sit bones, your little butt bones where you should be sitting on most of the time, and take them on the edge of a blanket or a block or like a really firm pillow. And there you want the knees hanging down. All right, so the breath is the most important part of yoga. So this is a beginner's class, and some people that are requesting this have either never done yoga, more than just a few minutes here and there, or just starting back up, or are young teenagers, people in their late teens as well, that want to get a good foundation. So to give you the best foundation I can in about 20-25 minutes, start with the breath, most important. Breathing through the nose is very important. So this is a good time for you to distinguish whether or not you are a mouth breather or a nose breather, or a little bit of both, which is what most people are. Breathing through the nose has a lot of benefits. I'm not going to go through every single one of them, but a few of them would be that breathing through the nose sterilizes the air. It creates moisture in the body. It helps keep the blood vessels from being too constrictive, because you will retain more carbon dioxide in the body. It also has been proven over and over and over again in multiple ways, from reading brain waves and blood pressure and other such things. It just reduces your anxiety. So if you're breathing through your mouth a lot, stop. So it might be a really long process, but if it makes you be aware of your breath more than you've ever been, then that is yoga doing a fantastic thing for you. So breathing in through the nose, pretend like your body has 3 floors and a basement. The basement is your pelvic floor, right? Think about the muscles that unconsciously squeeze when you cough or you sneeze, or some people call them the bathroom muscles. I think maybe guys, can identify with that a little bit more. And then you have the first floor, which is the pelvic diaphragm. It's right above the basement. Then you have the second floor, the breathing diaphragm, almost everybody knows about. It's a muscle. And then you have the diaphragm at the back of your throat, where possibly you can make a little whisper sound. So as you inhale, you push an elevator down the floors all the way down to the basement. So make sure everything goes down, not out. Not like that. And as you exhale, squeeze and lift the pelvic floor up through first floor, second floor, the back of the throat. Very simple. But if you're not familiar with the muscles that are running up and down along the spine for the exhale, it's going to be a little weird, a little different. You're going to feel like you're doing something wrong. You're not tapping into something. And here's the thing. Don't think about it. Just do it. Just do it for as long as you can. I recommend to breathe for about 5 minutes before you start any practice at all, just to get yourself into a frame of mind where things are a little more balanced. Your blood vessels are not going to constrict as much when you start the asana practice. you're going to be a little bit more receptive. Just giving you a visual here. Inhale in all directions. Exhale, draw everything in and up. You can start moving your arms if you want. As you inhale down the body. Exhale, draw the navel up and in. And then remember to extend through the crown of your head. Inhale and exhale. Next time you inhale, all the way down to your basement. And as you exhale, you can start to take your hands forward. If you can't do that in a cross-legged pose, then you, of course, can just unravel your legs and come up. So, desert island poses. How many poses am I limited to? I don't know. But child's pose is definitely one I'm taking. So, come down to child's pose. Knees apart, toes together is traditional, but knees can be together. You can take something under the butt between the sit bones and the heels. Otherwise, just hang in child's pose. If your head doesn't come to the floor, bridge the gap with blocks, a blanket, pillows. And then press your third eye center into the floor and just make little circles. That's going to help open up the sinuses a little bit for even better breathing. And if you don't want to do that, don't. But as you do inhale, feel the breath make its way down the back of your body now because it's more exposed and we don't really think about the back of our body. And then really push the muscles down to the bottom, the basement. Just, you don't have to be super aggressive about it. And when you exhale, now activate the inner thighs because they're part of your core. And then squeeze the basement up, all the way up the front of the body. Inhale, release, make space in the body. And then exhale, pull the energy up and in, out the crown of your head. So just using some of these visualizations might help. You don't have to breathe this way all the time. This is just to help facilitate the movement in the practice. For instance, in child's pose, especially towards the middle or end of a practice, I might just decide to breathe and not pulse the inner body so much. I'm going to come to cat-cow. You can stay in child's pose longer. This is why that timer might come in handy. You might pause the video. Time yourself for another minute or two. All right, so cat-cow is another desert island pose, without a doubt. Now, if you're going to dump into your wrists, don't. So do this first. Finger pads, fingers, then the palms, and try and keep the fingers pressing down, the bones actually pressing down, spread apart, and the wrists light. Roll your elbow creases forward. If you have trouble with this, wider hands can help. Okay? And then just let your elbows be soft. So if you're like this, like I'm queen of hyperextension, soften. Even if you don't look like this, don't lock your elbows out to the absolute straightest point they can be. Start to learn now, because it might take years, to have that tiny bit of bend, just enough to engage all the muscles around it so you're not counting on bone action here. Side to side. All right, so think about every time you inhale as a grounding wave. Inhale your fingers, shins, knees, and toenails into the floor. And then when you exhale, hug your forearms and inner thighs in, and then start zipping up the front of your low spine, maybe rounding the upper spine if that feels good to you. Inhale, a little bit curvier in the lumbar spine. You don't have to be as curvy as me. Mine's already a little bit too curvy. And then as you exhale, draw everything in and up the spine. So inhale is grounding, pressing everything, making contact with the earth, further into the earth. And then the exhaling is all drawing in towards the midline and then squeezing up from your basement. Remember, that's where your nervous system is. So you're really undulating the spine in a way that's very, very good for stimulating, for instance, the parasympathetic nervous system, which is your rest and digest. All right. You could do a few more of those. I like to do what I call clock, cat, cow. Perhaps I also like alliteration as well. So I push back. I might even push back to my toes curled under to stretch the bottoms of my feet. And then I'm going to go clockwise. So this is 6 o'clock, and I'm going to come clockwise. Notice how my elbows are going to bend and soften to 12 o'clock. Inhale. And then as I exhale, I'm going to come back to 6 o'clock. Inhale. Now I'm going to go counterclockwise as I exhale. I'm continuing to ripple the front of my spine. Inhale. And back the other way. So I want you to feel free to do that as much as you want, or perhaps take for instance, the entire revolution on one exhale. That's a good exercise for the breath, to have a longer exhale than inhale. And it might be a little bit too much for you right now, so don't worry about it. Don't get competitive about it. It's just breathing. It's just part of yoga. We are not training for anything. We do not get stickers at the end of the practice if we hold the exhale the longest. A little side to side. All right, I'm also going to take a thread the needle here. You can uncurl your toes if you like. So soft elbow. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this arm up. Notice my arm just doesn't just fly up. There's a bunny by my toes. Don't eat my toes. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw a line. I call it stringing the bow up here. And this is maybe where I stop, because you might have constriction here. See how far you can go. If your shoulder continues to do this, your arm should not be up here. It's important that you have space, you feel like your collarbones are open, and then you can come up. Now if you have pain, don't go this far. And then take it through here. The trick here is to not let the right hip dip down and go towards the left. So just press into your right shin a little more strongly. I'm going to exhale and take this out and see what the heck my bunny is chewing on. Hey, stop that. We just got a new chew toy. He's got to chew on a box. Inhale. And then exhale through. Same idea. Press into the left shin now. You can stay here longer, by the way. It's fine. And I'm going to come out. And then this is where downward dog comes in. Now, don't be too concerned about downward dog being an upside down V. If you want to create a V from the tops of your hamstrings, I should say the tops of your knees here to about here. This is where a good V should be. Legs straight are totally arbitrary based on your body type, and for one thing, we shouldn't be locking our knees out anyways. So just like we did before, we press into the fingers and we're light in the wrists. See if you can lift and spread your toes while you're here. You might not be able to. It's kind of funky. And then you want to make sure that you have those little sit bones free, so those things that we should have been sitting on earlier. When you inhale, you want to be able to create space. And then when you exhale, squeeze your forearms and your inner thighs in and start to roll your spine forward to plank. You don't have to stay here. You can always be on your knees. But what I'm more concerned about is that we can come to our knees gently and take our front foot forward for crescent lunge. You can have your back toe turned under for stability, or you can unleash the foot. Now, if the inhale is grounding, what are we grounding? The front foot, in particular the heel, because we have a tendency to go way forward into the balls of our feet. The back knee, the back shin, even though the shin technically isn't touching, and the toenails or the balls of your feet. Okay? So ground. So that's going to keep me from hanging out in my hips. Use the blocks or cans. And then as I exhale, I can start to curl up and rise. And I'm going to start scissoring my legs together. Because remember that idea of drawing everything in towards the midline? Then I can inhale, drop down purposely. Right? There's a difference between mindful dropping down and grounding and this, just hanging out in your hips. Just because I can do this doesn't mean I should be doing this, at least for a long period of time. If you come in here and you're like, oh, this feels kind of good, great. Just don't hold it forever. Use your exhale to kind of give you that little clue of, okay, I'm here, and now I'm going to inhale and ground. Okay, again, use your blocks or your bunny, whatever you need. And then just stay here for a little bit and see what happens. If you can balance like this, that's actually a pretty big deal because it's hard to balance when your legs are asymmetric. And remember that scissoring action. Inhale, press down. Exhale, scissor, and up. One more time. And then take it down. Curl your toe. And then you may not be able to step forward from here. It may be hard. You may need a few steps. But if you can, maybe lift the back leg up and then move your leg from your second floor. So inhale, press into the earth. As you exhale, lift and rise, squeeze up, and then from the second floor, you can take your foot forward and leave room for the bunny. And then as you stay here, you can step back with your right foot to now do. I think you left something. You left something on my mat. I'm gonna go fix that. Are you still in your left leg crescent? I hope so. Practice the grounding in with your feet and your shins. So pressing into the ground is going to activate muscles. And then as you scissor in, it's going to activate other muscles. So your muscles are always active to a certain degree. And again, like I said, if you really just want to sink into the hips for a moment or three, it's fine. But you don't really want to be hanging in that position for a long period of time. All right, now you've been here a while I cleaned up the Mysterious Bunny liquid. And now I'm going to take the toes under. Same idea. I'm going to step to the front of the mat. I'm going to inhale and ground everything into the floor as strongly as I can. So when I exhale, I'm from the second floor stepping forward. All right. Now, here's my other desert island squat. Everybody should be able to squat. It's so important to be able to have that lower part of your body active. Some people are going to squat on a block or blocks, and that is all they will do all their life for some reason or another. Right? Ideally, you can come to a squat that's comfortable for you. If your heels hang off the floor, like they lift like this, take a block or a blanket or a little rolled up face cloth. You can pause the video and find time for your squat. You may even squat with the back of your butt against the wall. Squatting is good. It is good for opening up the inner thighs, the pelvic region. It's also good for strength. My toes are turned out because they're tracking with the knees. Some of you may turn your toes forward. As long as your knees and your toes face the same direction, you are in good shape and you should be fine. All right, so from here, a lot of people have trouble getting out of a squat. Totally understandable. You can always take a block or something in front of you, but I'm going to tell you, do this on an exhale. Because if you do it with no thought to the breath and no mindful use of the squeezing in and up, it's going to be all in the hip joints and all in the legs. So what you want to do, and when I say the legs, I mean the quads. So inhale. As you exhale, squeeze your thighs in, start to lift from the basement. And then it comes out of the legs. So you're using more of your body. You're doing less work. If you have to just sit down, then that's fine. Just sit down. So 2 more desert island poses, because I imagine I wouldn't be able to take that many with me. Right? So I'm going to say chair pose. Chair is a really good way for developing strength. It just is. Nice thing about chair and lunges is you can do twists in them. So if your chair is very high, that's fine. But just make sure that the knees don't start popping in front of the toes. That's what you want to avoid. So inhale, right? You get a little curve of the back is okay, because when you exhale, inner thighs will squeeze and you'll start to lift the pelvis up into the body. Hands can be here, here. If you want to take a twist, take wood chopper arms and take the forearms over. I know a lot of times you'll see twists like this. The problem is, a lot of times people end up throwing a knee in front and then they're turtle shelling their back. So that's no good. That's not worth the twist. Not really a twist at that point. So I would stay at the forearms for a while. And you can go to the other side. You can also have your block with you. The idea is to still be able to have your knees flush and to be able to shine the heart through your arms. If you start developing a turtle shell, that means it's time to come higher, sink lower, or both. Taking it down. One more pose I'm going to suggest is horse stance. This is another symmetrical pose. Symmetrical poses are good when you're working on strength. Okay, especially if you're new to yoga you're going to have one leg that's stronger and more flexible than the other. Knees track with toes. And then a lot of times you'll see this. You'll see people in horse, and you'll either see a whole lot of this twerking or a whole lot of this because for some reason they were told to tuck their tailbone under at some point in their life. So inhale. You don't have to be here. What I'm saying is inhale and create space down the body, like there's a little weight attached to your tailbone. And then as you exhale, you squeeze and lift the tailbone into the body. So there's a tiny shape change in your lumbar spine, but it's nothing as severe as this. Okay? Only you will know what your spine can and can't do and how you can access all the muscles as you exhale. All right, staying here for as long as you need to. You can straighten your legs anytime and come back. Otherwise, I'm going to take it down. And I'm going to highly recommend that you take a stretch. Pigeon is a really good all-around stretch, but it is a little advanced in the sense that there's so many different things that can hurt you and go wrong, so to speak. So I'm going to give you this version of pigeon, a little different. Take your right foot in front and then squiggle it over to the left side of your mat. Lift your toes. See how my toes are nifty? And then I'm going to really try and press the outer edge of my foot, not my ankle, into the floor. If I do my ankle, look what happens. I collapse. No collapsing. And then I'll walk this knee back as needed. And then I'll have this knee come out to the side. Some people may not be able to hold themselves up very well here. And this is where you may use something like this to help your back leg. Okay, but what you'll see is my hands are either way out in front of me or I'm propped up on blocks with my hands pretty close to me. This is a good way to get into pigeon. Watch how the back hip is going to drop a little bit, and then use the inhale to create a little space. See if you can wiggle your sit bones back. Maybe your knee needs to go higher if you can't. And then exhale, create length. And then just when you're ready, be gentle with yourself because chances are you don't do stretches like that very often. So take it very one step at a time. And then take your left foot in front, swivel it to the right. Again, either your blocks are underneath you, or you could even be next to a wall on one side. Toes up. No collapsing. That's collapsing. And then continually press the blade of your foot. Okay, so you can be really high up. You can be up against a wall. Or you can choose to stretch it forward. Inhale. A little bit of space. Make sure you can press all the way down to the basement. And then as you exhale, squeeze your inner thighs towards one another. Again, another scissoring action. And some of you may not be able to get so low. I mean, I've been doing this a while and my shin is nowhere near the floor. You know, it could be just that your hips are made a certain way. Your leg bones go into your hips a certain way. All right, so here's the deal. From here, we'll take it backwards, go right back into child's pose. Child's pose is a good place to go anytime. So it doesn't matter whether you're in the middle of a practice or you're at the end or you're told to go into child's pose, you can go here anytime. In anyone's class ever in your life. And if anybody tells you no, then maybe you want to find another teacher. Maybe, possibly. And then ending the practice with more breathing. It's really important. It doesn't matter how you sit. If you can sit like this, great. If not, no worries. But just ending the practice the way you started brings everything full circle. So whether you choose to lie flat on the floor with your arms out, your legs splayed out, and you choose to take a typical, ending pose, Shavasana, or you choose to sit and focus on breathing, get your timer going for 3 to 5 minutes or more. It's a great way to end, and it also, gets you off your mat on a good foot. So there's your desert island class, about as beginner as can be, without hopefully over-describing things. If you want more beginner stuff, I can certainly get you some. If you want more stuff on the breath, again, all you have to do is request, put it in the comments, send me an email, subscribe, like, do all that good stuff, and have a good day.